plan. All right, and then Nicole, I think you still have a window up on the left there. There we go, thank you. And so as Chris said, my name is Bree Barnett Dreyfus, and I teach high school in the Bay Area of California, and I'm also the Ambassador Program Coordinator for the Step Up program. And Nicole? And Nicole, you're still muted.
Early morning workshops. Sorry, I'm Nicole Schrody. I work at APS. I'm a public engagement program manager. I was a high school physics and biology teacher for a long time and just moved over to APS last June and do their K-12 outreach and work in close proximity to Bree on all of our Step Up stuff.
So we wanted to take a moment to let everybody introduce themselves, where they're at, and a fun fact about you. So Tom, you're at the top of my screen, so I was going to have you start.
Thank you, Bree. Sure. I'm Tom Okuma. I am recently retired from Lee College, which is a community college in Baytown, Texas, on the east side of Houston. My fun fact is I'm really excited about using my new telescope.
And Chris?
Hello, everyone. I'm Chris Louie, and I now direct optics. I was at a two-year college for 13 years here in Maryland before that. And fun fact, I just spent half an hour harvesting about a pound of raspberries from my garden, which is super exciting.
Yay.
Joe?
I'm Joe Hefner. I'm in the Hickory, North Carolina area, and I too was at a community college for 30 years, more than half my biological life, and that is also my fun fact. And I'm retired now, so.
Right. Tony?
Hi, I'm Tony Musumba, and I'm from Southern California. I teach at Riverside City College. And my fun fact is that I love all things Step Up. So I have a Step Up t-shirt, I have a Step Up cap, but it's in my office. And I have a Step Up
Poster.
So all things.
Awesome.
Yeah. And I also do careers in physics, but lately I think I need to tweak it a little bit. So that's why I'm here.
Oh, great. We can't wait to hear how you've been doing it. And then Ajay?
Yes, my name is Ajay Saha, and I have been teaching physics for 29 years. Recently, I'm grieving because I lost my mother, so still I want to be a part of the meeting.
I'm sorry to hear about your loss.
Thank you.
Ian? Sorry, go ahead.
Hi. Yes, I teach physics at Collin College, which is, we have many campuses in the Dallas area, and I teach at the Frisco campus. And I don't know what fun fact I can give you. I grew up in India, if that would count.
Anything you want to share counts. And then Philip?
Hi, Philip Blanco. Just had to move to a quiet spot for a second. I teach physics and astronomy at Grossmont College just outside San Diego, California. Fun fact, I just realized this year that even though I am British born and bred, that I have now spent, as of this year, slightly more than half of my life in the US.
All right. We're going to go over just kind of our norms for our discussions. The poster actually that Tony shared. And so we have these available for classrooms in both English and Spanish, depending on the school that you're in. And these are our guidelines for conduct during discussions, which is a specific part of the Women in Physics lesson to make sure that these are established before you have those conversations with students, but we do use them in all of our conversations. And so there are 7 parts to this that we try to make sure that as people are discussing, that they're sharing airtime equitably, that they're valuing the differences in perspectives, that when they argue using evidence. We want to make sure everyone feels safe, that recognize that discomfort is okay, and make sure that you own your impact because your intention may not be your impact. And that we want to help create a sense of community, specifically strengthen the one that you already have within optics, and then also welcome you to the Step Up community. And our agenda for the day is that we were going to give you kind of an overview of the project, kind of the background, where the research led the project when it started. We're going to introduce the lesson, but also talk about like the pedagogy behind it, why certain things are done, suggestions for doing certain things. And then we'd like to take a break. But at any time, if you need to step away for anything, feel free. We are going to have a small group discussion on the second half because we wanted to give everybody time to look at the lessons and then also think about how they need to adjust them for their own personal teaching experience, because as much as we know kind of the different options of how we can do different things, every school is different, every classroom is different, and we want to make sure that we have opportunity to actually apply what you're going to need to do to change it for your classroom. And then we want everybody to share the ideas that we might come up with. And so if we remain a small group, we will probably be able to share out more of those ideas and get a little bit more customization. Okay, and so at that point, Nicole, your turn.
So as we go through our presentation today, we want you to consider kind of the landscape of women in physics. You know, as we talked about in the beginning, Step Up is an acronym supporting teachers to encourage the pursuit of undergraduate physics. And it used to be called Step Up for Women. Now we're just Step Up, but our goal is to increase the visibility and the intentions of women and young girls to go into physics. So just keep that as the frame for our conversation today. So when you think about gender differences in physics, I want you just to take some time to predict what trend you think exists in the US for percentage of women and girls in high school physics, and then college entrance, meaning that they have set their intention to major in physics, and then, you know, actually getting their degree, PhD, assistant professor, and associate. And we have 3 choices. So maybe in the chat, or if your screen is on, you can hold up your fingers, but which graph do you think shows the current state of women in physics in the US right now? So either number 1, number 2, number 3. And on these graphs on the side, there's no percentages, but they match with the percentages over here on the main graph. So put it in the chat, or let's see what people are saying. 1 finger. So someone's saying number 1. You can shout it out or put it in the chat. Oh, sorry, number 3. Okay.
And then I see 2 number 2s being shown.
Okay, great. Number 2, good. Predict 2. Okay, so we will see what the answer is. So what we see is number 3. So cheers to you guys for that. So we have about 50% of girls and young women in high school physics, and that number drops off to about 20% of people saying their intentions are to major in physics in college. And then you see a slight drop, but you know, that's with anyone. Not everyone who enters as a physics major ends as a physics major, but it's pretty good retention. But this is the gap that we're looking at, right? How do we go from 50% women in high school to 20%? And then if we look, you know, people might say, is this all STEM careers? Is this just physics, a problem with physics? Like I said, this is the problem we're really looking at. And if we look across other STEM fields, such as chemistry and biology, we don't see that huge drop off the way we do with physics. So you see about 50% women and girls in high school for chemistry and biology, but then you actually see some overrepresentation in those majors Whereas physics, you see this big drop as we go to college entrance. So this is the the problem that Step Up aims to tackle. So if we look at the goals of the Step Up project, we really try to rely on research and evidence. We are partnered with Florida International University, who created these lessons, and they run our research. And we always try to not say anything unless we have research to back it up, because we know that these topics can be controversial at times when you're talking about anything about gender or race or anything like that. So we really try to draw on research, and we have a community of thousands of physics teachers, faculty who are helping us tackle this problem. We want to reduce the barriers to inspire young women to pursue physics, whether that means showing them representation or, really, we have our everyday action guide, which are tangible steps that all instructors can do in the classroom to really elevate the voices of women and minoritized students. And then we want to shift the deep-seated cultural views about who does physics. So we'll get to this in the lesson, that people have strong views that might be antiquated or, in this kind of the social zeitgeist about who does physics, and we want to shift those perceptions. And again, we want to increase this this gap between the 50% and the 20% going into undergraduate physics. So our goal is just to get to 50%, right? So 50% of the population is women, 50% of physics majors should be women. So that's our goal. And we have a Moore Foundation grant right now through 2026, where we're trying to really get to that 50%. So what we found is if half of the US high school physics teachers, and we want to try and incorporate two-year colleges into this to really increase that undergraduate physics major. So if half of high school physics teachers encouraged one female student to pursue physics, we would get to that 50% mark. Sorry, this picture is covering this last word, but incoming physics majors. And how can we grow this to include two-year college populations is the question we're trying to partner with optics to understand. So our program includes two lessons: the careers in physics, which we'll talk about today, the women in physics, which we'll talk about, I believe, next month, and then the everyday actions, which will be our third lesson or workshop. And all of these together, we hope can help us tackle that disparity. And then again, we have our guidelines, which is part of our program as well. So today we're going to talk about the first of our lessons, which is careers in physics. And these are all free online, all available on our website. And we will add, also you guys are going to get a copy to this PowerPoint, and then Bree just put the links in the chat. So you guys can bookmark those if you would like to. If you just Google Step Up Physics, it should come up as well.
Right,
okay, so Bree will take you through the career in physics lesson, and take it away, Bree.
So as Nicole mentioned, they're all available free and online. And we do have an online community where teachers, students, professors, anybody who's interested can join for free and be part of the discussion. And that's very helpful for a lot of the kind of customizations and expansions that we're going to be talking about. But these are all available outside of that community. So there's no signing in for it. You can just download it. And every year when I go to do the lesson, I go through and download it as well. So it's just freely and easily available on there. So looking at the careers in physics lesson, this is by far our most popular one, because all physics teachers, despite whatever background they may have or what they feel about the diversity of their classroom, they all want children to enjoy physics in the high school setting, and they want all of their students in the two-year colleges and undergraduate programs to stick with physics as a major. So everybody's kind of like, oh yeah, I got to tell them all the great things about being a physics major. So when we're going through this, we'd like you to kind of think about it as your students would, as if your students were experiencing it, and then also at the same time, thinking about how you might be changing it as a teacher. And as Nicole mentioned, we're going to share this with you because this is where we're going to record our group conversations later. But this is not the presentation that you would present to your students when you do the careers in physics lesson. We do have examples pulled from this to show you, but this isn't the one that you would share with the students. So we're going to be thinking about it as if we're kind of early in the school year. Some of our teachers actually do this lesson as a first week activity or even a first day activity, but sometime before October. In the high school, it's because we're trying to catch them before college apps. For you, it might be to try and catch them before the withdrawal period ends. Right? You want them to still remain in the class and think that the class is really interesting. So this is what we are gearing it for, but part of our partnership with Optics is really like what parts still work in your settings and into your college. And so Nicole, if you could click forward one more. So this initial prompt that we give them is one of those points where you can customize it a couple of different ways. We have kind of a low tech way, and then there's lots of digital ways that you can do that. So we give students a prompt, and on the low tech way, they can write their answers on Post-it notes. So we put out a pile of Post-it notes. They say use as many as you need, and they get consolidated somewhere in the space. So that might be in the whiteboard in the front, that might be posters along the wall, but they're putting up all of their answers to this prompt. The other thing is that you could give them a link to a word cloud or to a Mentimeter or something so that they can digitally share their responses. And so Nicole, if you could show us the prompt. We asked the students to name a career that they could have with a physics bachelor's degree. So in this format, usually the easiest is that you can type into the chat as many things as you think your students might answer. So if you pose this to your students and potentially their first college physics class, what would they say is a career they might be able to have with an undergraduate degree in physics? So I'm seeing physics teacher, engineer, astronomer, physics teacher, laboratory technician. Joe, I want to see which people you talk to that they know that laboratory technician is a job that early. Astrophysicist. And these are very common for what we get students to have. So Nicole, if you want to go forward more, I do think we should switch so I can share it as well. I'm going to navigate all the screens. Remember remote teaching when we have multiple screens? I set myself up with 3. And then I'm never going back. All right. So looking at this one, this would be an example of those Post-it notes that they can have. And so then after students have responded and shared all the things that they possibly can, then we go through and read them and we start to like group them together. We'll get a lot of repeats like physics teacher, like engineer, astrophysicist. We'll get astronaut kind of related to that. And then with the word cloud, this is a sample from one of our sessions. You can see that the larger words are the ones that more people said. So there are definitely some commonalities. Staring at you in front of the classroom may be the first time that they've actually seen someone in person with a physics degree. So they're like, obviously, just the physics teacher. That's my only option. But there's some things else that will come up depending on their own personal experiences, but it's pretty limited. So the next thing that we do is have them take a survey. So we do have paper copies, but we actually had a student who got bored during the pandemic and decided to program a website for us that allows us to do it digitally, and we've never looked back. So there are 2 questions that the students answer. In the first one, they're going to mark 3 of the most important factors for their future career satisfaction. And for our students that are as young as high school, they're like, I'm all about that money. I want to go into the highest ranked school. You know, they have different things. Your students being a little bit older, probably out in the world, are going to probably have a little bit more of a mature outlook on that. But we allow them to choose up to 3 of the important factors of things that they want in their future career satisfaction. And then they mark 2 areas that they're most interested in. So these would be like fields. So biology, chemistry, physics, astronomy, etc. So once they've done that, they get matched based on what these responses are to certain profiles. And so on this website, once you do this, you can actually log in as a class so that you can see what your students have a response as a response, or they can just do it anonymously. So we'd like to give you a couple of minutes to play with it. So choose different answers to those 2 questions and see which profiles you get matched up with.
This is really fun.
I do it all the time.
What I notice, having done the paper to now doing the digital, the students are much more interested in reading more, as this is their medium, right? They're the digital generation. So I had all of these on laminated sheets and they had to go up, find which one they were, go back, read it, try to rematch, and so they would read maybe 2. And now they read 5 or 6. They just keep going. Oh, Joe, you know 2 of them? That's very cool.
One from Twitter and one from my time in AAS.
On that note, we're always looking for new profiles. So if you know anyone you want to nominate, including yourself, to be a representative of the physics community, I'll put a link at the end to our survey to collect nominations for profiles. So if you know someone who's doing something really cool, if you think you're doing something really cool, we're always taking nominations.
So part of the lesson, after students have had a chance to play with these and to find different people, is to have a discussion in a slightly larger group in the classroom. So a couple students just near them to share who they got and what they felt was interesting. And then that can expand to the whole class, depending on the size of your classes. So we asked them to think about, what does your physicist personally value about their degree or career? Who benefits from their work? And what did they gain from the physics degree? And these prompts are specifically written in this way to get at that counter narrative, because we have the worst PR of all the sciences and physics, because people think that we are Sheldon Cooper from Big Bang Theory, that we are socially awkward, we're individualist, we don't play well with others. And so all of these profiles that were chosen specifically are showing that counter narrative that physicists contribute to the greater good of humanity and the world. And here's all the ways that they do it. So we're helping to try and reframe what our students think about physics by being exposed to all of these different careers and things. So was there anything in answer to one of these questions that somebody wanted to share about what they were reading? So looking at the steps of the careers in physics lesson, this is the highlight of the instruction. So the lessons come with a teacher guide that explain everything that you can do, have links to all the research and all the citations and everything else. But this is just kind of the shortcut refresher if you've done it before, like Joe. So the first step is that the students are going to brainstorm the careers that they can have with the physics degree, which we did in the chat. They figure out from the answers to their questions what kind of biographies they would like to read about, and then they discuss it. The next step is the critical component. So this is the part that our research shows if you skipped this, we can't prove it's going to work for you. So this is the difference between our control group and the research group that actually showed an increase in students' future physics intentions to major. They're going to complete that brief survey with all those questions. That's how they got the physicists. That's how they decide which one they're going to go for. And that all leads up to that critical component. And so they're going to discuss that with everybody and end up producing this product in the end. So those critical components match up with the things that they're going to accomplish from this task and the parts that they have to do in order for that to work. So this is also highlighted in that teacher guide. But on the performance objectives over here, we just really want to make sure that we're explicit in our conversations with them. What skills and traits were developed by having this degree in physics? What did they strengthen? How did they grow for getting that? And then that their careers are actually helping human society and Earth, and that they can see physics as like the path through their goal. And that's another shift for these students. We're not just saying you have to major in physics and you're going to be a physicist and you'll just do research. The idea is that there's lots of different avenues that are opened up by having a degree in physics. So after that, we asked the students what new careers have emerged for researching the physicist profiles. And so we would either give them more Post-it notes, maybe of a different color, and then they add those so we can see how much growth there's been, or we have them make another word cloud or somehow, change what the group discussion had been on there. So you can see in this particular lesson, there was a lot more things that come up, and sometimes things like anything come up. The kids get the point of like, okay, it's not limiting, because they know other majors. If you're an English major, they don't expect everybody with an English major to be a novelist or an English teacher. But we kind of had that pigeonholing when it comes to physics. So this is the worksheet that comes with having the students produce their own student profiles. It's kind of a drafting mechanism, and then from there, there's different formats that they can use. So we want them to think about themselves having had a physics major, and then what would their life look like after that? So they get a physics degree, then they go on to whatever it is that they feel they want to do. And that may be a career they didn't know existed a few minutes ago before they read the surveys, or it may be the same career they wanted to do, but now they're thinking about physics as the framework to get them there. And I teach a lot of AP students, and so by the time we talk about these, they're like, no, I already know what college I'm going to. I'm already going what major I'm going to do. You can't change my mind. And so the part that I tweak for them, for the older students, is to say, fine, whatever your major is, whatever your career goal is, but let's talk about the skills that you learned in physics. Let's think about this as a resume builder, because they don't do that part. They try to sell themselves in a college application, but they don't think about it in terms of skills that they can offer an employer, or if they want to work in a lab, or they want to be an intern on a special project. So we focus on what have you learned in physics that makes you marketable, that makes you an asset to a team. And so we still have that way of framing it, even with students who are like determined not to be a physics major. So here are some samples from students. We often have them make it as a digital slide on a Google slide deck, or allow them something else to do it with. They can still do it on paper, and then they're great for our back to school nights and open night, house nights to display for the parents, to display around the school so that other people can see it and be attracted to take the class. So if this was something you were doing in a course that was not physics majors, but is something that could be, in the hallway of your physics department, something like that, to kind of get more people interested in it. So the end of the lesson includes a presentation that we give to the students that has some statistics. So up until this, we've just asked them a question, we've had them do the profile matching, they've made their own survey, but we haven't presented them with any other kind of counter information yet. They've all been getting that by reading the biographies. So we're going to show you a couple of the slides, but this would be part of the teacher presentation to the students that's available on the website. So we tell them some interesting facts that are things they don't concern themselves yet as younger students, but your students are going to be well aware of things like rent and job applications and things like that. So we tell them that they physics majors have a high employment rate, it's 95%. They have high job satisfaction. They have more job opportunities. They're not pigeonholed into just becoming a physics teacher. Physics majors earn comparatively higher salaries than other fields, and that they tend to get higher scores on assessments for both medical and law school. So as your two-year college students are continuing on to other four-year institutions and have aspirations for maybe some of these degrees, these statistics are very interesting. So we do have in the presentation one for MCAT and LSAT that's a little bit older, but this one is the most recent that we've got. So for MCAT scores, physics actually does better than biology and biomedical science and better than the average. So this one is similar to what we see with the LCAT, but they just haven't updated it for the 22 up to 2022 school year. A lot of my students think I'm absolutely lying with this. With your age, I'm sure there are other statistics for other programs that yours would want to be looking at. And then Nicole is going to share a little bit more about the evidence here of the research.
Great. And I wanted to stress, as Bree was saying, that we really want people to see that majoring in physics undergrad doesn't mean you have to be a PhD physicist, right? It's a great basis for any job just to have the BS in physics or the bachelor's degree in physics. It doesn't mean you have to go on to be a PhD. So really trying to hammer that down with the profiles as well. We try and find people who majored in physics undergrad, but then did something different, you know, went into law or went into the arts or business. But that physics degree is a great backing for anyone to do anything they want to pursue later. Like Bree was saying, she asks her students to think, well, even if you want to be a musician, how can physics help you? Things like that. So with our study, Bree, I feel like you're more geared to talk about this. So if you want to go ahead and do that.
No problem. So this is the lesson evidence. So we actually had 2 rounds of evidence. The first one was under our NSF grant, and actually both of them were under that portion. They did a small group kind of volunteer teachers and showed that there was physics gains. And it, okay, maybe we just got amazing teachers because we were asking for volunteers after all to do lessons to help get more women into physics. So maybe they were just awesome. Then we expanded it. There was a larger control group and the results were pretty similar. So what we were able to do is show that to improve the lessons were helpful to improve students' future physics intentions, to major in physics, and to pursue a physics-related career. And so this chart on the right-hand side, we have this broken up into female and non-female. So students self-identified. This was not their teachers identifying them. There was a small, I think it was only one student that identified as non-binary. And so we did non-female versus female as self-identified. And so we were able to measure it before and after each of those lessons and then kind of overall, but this is just the information specifically for the careers in physics lesson. So overall, we showed gains from the lesson across all students to be positive. And then when we further break this down by some subgroups, we also see some positive gains in that. So this was able to support our claim that by doing these lessons, we are improving the numbers of students who would intend to major in physics. And then specifically, we're showing a gain as well in women. So there is more support on the website in the career section and then also within the community. And that helps us with different pacing for different situations, but that's what you guys are going to get to do live here is actually talk about it specifically within the lens of how does this adjust for within the 2-year college settings. But there's more information there. And we do have quotes from teachers who have used the lessons, and there's always a lot of anecdotes that get shared. Either Joe's seen them on Twitter as people are sharing that when they've done the lessons, or on the discussion boards and had quite a lot of success. And what's nice about this program, and because we always get a whole bunch of new programs right in schools, you will do it this way, you will use this new software, you will do this. This one, you see immediate results. The change in the classroom vibe is great. There's a lot of buy-in from the students. Just this explicit act of saying that not only do I want you to enjoy this class, but I care about you enough to think that this is something that's going to benefit your future. That's really powerful. They're used to a lot of sage on stages that just sit in the front and like, you get it or you don't, you know, no skin off my nose. Like, this is showing an investment in their futures that they do really appreciate. So this is some of what we're thinking of for our group discussion. Is this usable as it is? You're not going to talk to a neighbor. We're going to have a smaller group discussion, and then we are going to go through and share out. But we're thinking about, what do you have to do to modify this? So for our group discussion, we wanted to think, how are you going to adapt this for your students? We have about 30 minutes for the work time and for the sharing. And so what we're going to do is share this whole slide deck with you. You have the ability to edit. We did put some slides at the end. We weren't sure how many, so that says like breakout room, but what you can do, because we have smaller numbers, is that maybe this is for just general ideas. So we may see a theme as we're talking about things. And so we can change it to, instead of saying breakout room number, to say this theme is, you know, logistics, or maybe there's something about extensions and things like that. So slides 47 to 50, and we can always make more, is more about what we can put in there. So Chris, I think we were thinking of still making a couple of smaller breakout rooms, and then we can split, looks like maybe 4 and 4, and then Nicole and I can bounce.
Yeah,
or
I
three,
can.
3 and we'll bounce.
I think I can do that.
Okay.
And I'll just, so 2 breakout rooms. And as you guys go through this, think about, so this slide should be shared with you so you can go back to those critical components. And I often wonder, as I've thought about 2-year colleges, how can we modify the critical component of like making that profile to match the, you know, developmental place of where 2-year colleges are. I'm not sure how to modify that to meet the needs of your students. Maybe it's like more of an interview process, or they can look at different schools that have the major and pick a school that they think matches their needs, you know, if they're going to go to a 4-year college. So I think those are really the ideas. I think the matching game, whatever, the matching software is super cool for any age, as we can see, but how do those critical components towards the end that they have to see themselves in the major or in the role, how can we modify that for 2-year college? I think is something, and like Bree said, extensions or things like that. So as you guys go into the breakout rooms, those are things that I'm thinking about. Obviously, whatever you're thinking about could be different, but I'll go ahead and put you guys into the breakout rooms, and Bree and I will kind of pop back and forth. Any questions before I open the rooms? Questions, comments?
I guess I had a comment here, and because I've done this lesson, I think I've done it every semester, but it's just like this semester I did it, but what I noticed is with the 2-year college, you're so sometimes pressed with time for no apparent reason. You shouldn't be, but sometimes you are. And so you have a bunch of things that are going on. And so I've always kind of had this career profile thing to do. And I noticed that one of the things that I am missing, which is really critical, is the ability to start off by reflecting on what we're doing as a whole class, and then wrapping it up with what we just did. Because they go through all those critical components. Maybe they just miss 1 or 2, but it's just without that reflecting as a big class so that they can kind of get that sense of this is what physics is about, you know. So that's just a comment I thought I should say because it might be helpful for someone.
So are you saying kind of like the framing of the whole activity, like how to introduce it and how to sum it up at the end and how to put it into a frame?
Absolutely.
Okay, maybe that's something you guys can talk about as well. How to center it in some bigger aspect.
Absolutely.
Any other comments or questions before we break out?
I just wanted to know that the main aim of this research or discussion is to have physics in college or in school, high school, as well as college, or only in college?
So right now it's mostly in high school, and we're trying to kind of alter it to live in the 2-year college space as well. And you guys are kind of like our guinea pigs to float some ideas as to how we can alter this to fit your context of 2-year college.
Because sorry to interrupt, I have taught in South Carolina, Georgia, now in Arizona. So whenever we talk kids having physics in high school, the principal, the admin, they will say, oh, physics is very difficult, our kids cannot handle. So are we doing something for this cause, or we are just, I have attended this kind of meetings, so many, but we are not getting the point, or even we realize this is the only cause, we are not doing something concrete that it should be changed. Because from 2000 to 2023, I have not seen 1% increase in enrollment, rather 5 to 10% decrease in enrollment for last 20 years.
So part of our discussion when we do the careers in physics is how to promote the courses themselves, because depending at the high school level, depending on the school, physics may not even be offered. If it's offered, it may not be taught by someone who has a physics degree. If it's offered, it may be 2 different levels of class in the same classroom. And that varies depending upon the district, the student demographic, and all kinds of things. So one of the things that we talk to the high school teachers about as well is how does this help to promote your course? Because if we don't get them into the physics classes, we can't get them into the physics major. Right. And so part of the careers in physics, what we suggest them making the on paper profiles and to have those put up is because that helps to promote the course itself. And so a lot of the conversations that we have with teachers with the everyday actions, which is the kind of the third leg of our curriculum, is what are you doing both within the classroom and outside of the classroom that promotes physics at your school, that supports physics at your school, and not just, if they offer it, they offer it. How can we actively encourage our students to take the physics courses so that they do offer physics courses, so that becomes the norm? So we've all had classes where there was one teacher super passionate about it, that class was there, that teacher left, class is dead, right? The culture changes. So we have to try and swing it so that physics becomes a norm at your school, that students take it so that we can get them in the classes, get the lessons to get the future majors. And so that tends to go hand in hand with this portion. So that's one of the things that we advocate for the teachers is to be active in the pursuit of physics students, as well as supporting the future physics majors.
I think this is not the teacher level, this is the admin level, and we cannot change the mind of the admin, who is the one person decide yes or no. I have been told, let them have environmental science or let them have earth science, but not the physics. So I believe we should do something at the admin level or the district level or at the state level, where it is mandatory in high school, 4 years, you must have 2 physics courses. Until we do that, it will keep going like this for last 23 years. I may be wrong, but this is the only thing, this is the only motivation for me to join this meeting. That's, I wanted to say thank you so much. I'm sorry if I said more, but this is the message that goes out as a teacher, that I wanted to do physics, but I'm helpless because my district, my principal say our kids cannot handle, and then I'm done. I cannot say nothing, otherwise I have to lose my job.
Right. This is something APS is definitely focusing on. So American Physical Society. Yeah, and really trying to work with like teacher prep to have more physics teachers be prepared to teach physics. Also, there are a lot of conceptual physics curriculum, Open SciEd and Pure Physics that are more introductory physics for people that, you know, maybe you can suggest. But I agree. And APS is working on, everyone is aware of the problem and definitely working to, but I will definitely bring it up to a couple different people at APS and see, you know, take your concerns into consideration for sure.
Yeah, there are a few states and districts who have mandated that there be physics. I think the most recent large addition to that was Chicago. So there has been some growth in it, but it is small. As I said earlier, we're the one with the worst PR. And so it is a national issue that we don't have enough physics teachers. We don't have enough kids taking physics, and it is something we're working for. So we're hoping that things like this help a little bit, and that it's a start. So I think we'll open up those smaller breakout rooms so that we can look specifically at how we might adapt this lesson for a two-year college. Like, what else are we missing in the framing and things?
Great. Okay, so we'll put you in those rooms and then we'll pop in and out to answer questions. Let's take about maybe 20 minutes and then we'll come back together.
Great.